This conference will now be recorded.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Mitchell County Board of Supervisors meeting, Monday, March 24th, 2025. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
Dan made motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Todd second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. We have public hearing for proposed fiscal year 26 property tax levy. I'm going to open the public hearing at 9:01. Any oral or written comments received by the board?
I had none.
I had some.
I have none.
I had some.
I had none.
Rachel, any?
I had questions on the mailing, that it was confusing. And that was it.
All right. So this would go into the public comments, right?
Yeah.
Public comments. Who would like to start?
No, I just come to listen, thank you.
Oh, thank you for coming. Stan, you have the floor.
Thank you. And I want to thank the board for holding this public hearing and for the opportunity to express our concerns on what is happening in our nation, state, and here in Mitchell County. We are living in perilous times, uncharted waters. The federal government is allowing Elon Musk to take a chainsaw approach to programs that will directly or indirectly negatively affect the citizens of Mitchell County. The state of Iowa has similar goals: cut funding and long-standing programs to Iowa public schools, city, and county governments. Back in 2008, came to what was being known as the floods of 2008. Scores of houses were destroyed that sat along the Winnebago, Shell Rock, and Cedar River banks. About this same time, progressive Mitchell County supervisors pursued the idea wind farms located in the rural part of the county could fall under tax increment financing, in other words, TIF. Initially, TIF funding was utilized to hard surfacing over 40 miles of county roads, mostly employing concrete for longevity and durability. About in 2009, the federal and state governments came with a program to stimulate new housing in the affected areas of the 2008 floods. This program was partially utilized in the affected flood areas for many reasons. So the program was expanded to include cities and counties that were not affected by the 2008 floods. Mitchell County now fell into this category. Members of a previous Mitchell County Board of Supervisors and Brenda Dreyer of the Economic Development Board figured out how to make this program work for Mitchell County. Mitchell County utilized this program far more than any other North Iowa counties. Due to the creativity of banker Tim Halverson and others, at least 30 plus flood houses were built in what was known as the Seasoned Subdivision in St. Ansgar, along with at least 15 others throughout Mitchell County, for a total of at least 50 houses built with the flood program. A previous Board of Supervisors studied the effects of flood housings, this program, and had on Mitchell County. The property tax base increased substantially. This program stimulated new housing construction, thus employing builders, carpenters, electricians, and plumbers. Some citizens from outside Mitchell County moved to the county due to the quality of job opportunities, thus growing the population with highly desirable citizens with school-age children. Others in existing housing were motivated to upgrade, thus freeing up older houses for starter houses. Our 3 schools were also beneficiaries with additional students. This previous Board of Supervisors desired to use a similar program to stimulate new housing and beneficial population growth. This Board of Supervisors contacted their financial advisor, Jeff Heil of Northland Securities. The Board of Supervisors was not interested in governmental programs that was primarily directed at low to moderate income folks, since these folks did not have the financial ability to build or afford a new house. With this in mind, financial advisor Heil suggested the board take a look at the new program implemented in what I believe was Wright County, the Eagle Grove area. The Eagle Grove program was designed to stimulate industrial and commercial growth using TIF, with housing falling under these growth areas. Between Mr. Heil and the bond counsel, John Danos, a new program was designed to include Mitchell County Economic Development Commission to oversee an implementation of this program. The Board of Supervisors initiated $30,000 per housing unit for a stimulus to promote this new housing program. Here is where the Board of Supervisors at that time made a huge mistake. We called this $30,000 a grant. This was not true. In reality, the $30,000 is a repayable loan, and each year the house exists, the new increment in property taxes is paid back to the various taxing bodies in Mitchell County. It should be noted, not just paid back, but paid back many, many, many times over to these existing bodies. Those 50 or so flood houses built over 15 years ago are and continuing to generate substantial property taxes thanks to the inflation of this federal and state program. The flood housing program received no known local criticism. We had no complaints whatsoever back in 2010, 2012 when we used this program. The program ran smoothly when a similar program called the Industrial and Commercial Incentive Program became effective in Mitchell County. A small group of individuals became extremely vocal. I believe this to be due to the highly incorrect information that was portrayed to be fact. Members of the public were informed instead of TIF being used for housing, the TIF funds could be placed in the general fund of the county and thus property taxes would be lower. This was and is totally untrue. Yet this concept continued to be believed. Also, some individuals had the attitude that if I could not use TIF, my neighbors should not also be helped. TIF can be used for special projects, or in the case of stimulation, new industry, forgiving property taxes for a period of time. Pioneer Perry and Turtle Creek wind farms have provided around 70 million potential TIF dollars for roads, 2 daycares, trails, and improved parks, just to name a few of the improvements. Some of these monies have yet to be utilized. This unutilized funds I will address shortly, but the clock is ticking for when they do expire. I mention this because the Plymouth Junction wind farm desires to be built here in Mitchell County in 2 phases. It is estimated by the wind farm folks that property taxes would be around $50 million, thus $50 million of potential new TIF revenues. Keep in mind, I believe using TIF in special projects does not fall under the new 2% growth limitation for Iowa. Plenty of beneficial projects for Mitchell County can be completed now using TIF without the 2% limitation. This Board of Supervisors has authorized planning and zoning to draft a wind ordinance specifying setbacks, noise, and other items that could negatively affect rural citizens. It is my understanding this draft was completed last June and submitted to the county attorney for his opinion. The draft was found to have a few conflicts with the present county ordinances, and thus it was turned over to the North Iowa Area Community, or NICOG, North Iowa Area Council of Governments, for the review and recommendations for adjustments to either or both documents. This is also my understanding this project has been completed and is now waiting to be presented to the Planning and Zoning Board for changes and for adoption of this document in question. With the uncertainty of the Trump administration with regard to tax credits for wind farms, I would strongly encourage this Board of Supervisors to rapidly move this progress forward, as I would hate to see $50 million of potential TIF monies lost due to the unnecessary delays. 50 million goes a long way to improving Mitchell County. It is my understanding that at least one member of the present Board of Supervisors previously contacted bond counsel inquiring to the legality of the previous Board of Supervisors' use of TIF for the Industrial and Commercial Incentive Program. My understanding, Attorney Donos explained this program has not been tested in court, thus leaving the impression that this program was possibly illegal. What Attorney and Bond Counsel Danos failed to explain, most new programs in Iowa, whether they be state of Iowa programs or city programs or county programs, have not been tested in court. First of all, when bond counsel certifies the bonds to be sold for an industrial and commercial incentive program or marketable, Mitchell County cannot be sued or charged for a crime concerning this action due to the certification and the approval of bond counsel. In other words, the board acted on the advice of counsel. Secondly, for Mitchell County to have been sued in this transaction, someone would have had to have standing, i.e. a financial interest in this case. Third, to take this action to court, it would have in all probability, cost the individual suing at least $100,000 in court costs and attorney fees with no guaranteeing of winning. That's a substantial risk just to take this type of thing to court. Fourth, when this Board of Supervisors provided TIF monies to the Fair Board, Libraries, and Conservation Board, there were in Iowa no known court cases authorizing these kinds of TIF expenditures. In other words, again, these actions have been untested in court for this board. Back in 2010, it was Mitchell County that discovered TIF could be used from wind farms. Today, most eligible counties are fully using TIF. Osage and St. Ansgar also fully uses TIF. A few years ago, at a town and country breakfast at the CRC here, the guest speaker was from ISU. A professor of economics stated that Mitchell County was one of 2 rural counties growing. He went on to explain, I do not know what you are doing up here in Mitchell County, but whatever it is, you are doing it right. Keep up the good work. The following year, another town and country breakfast at the CRC, a new guest speaker had a similar observation. He stated Mitchell County was one of the 6 rural counties that continue to grow. What you are doing here, keep it up. This was due to the fact that, again, we use TIF for housing and other things for industrial and commercial growth. Around 2020, a U.S. Census provided growth data for all of the cities in the North Iowa Council of Governments 8-county area. All cities declined population except for 5. Northwood and Worth County grew, and 4 cities in Mitchell County grew noticeably. To me, again, that's worth noting. Only 5 cities in the whole 8-county area grew, 4 of them within Mitchell County. The Mitchell County growth was the result of a previous board adopting and activating the Industrial and Commercial Incentive Program. Previously to the 2021 Board of Supervisors, Mitchell County was recognized throughout Iowa for the positive growth and attitude and our accomplishments. The previous board was not afraid to try new ideas or allow a few uninformed naysayers to criticize this board. In closing, I would strongly suggest this board utilize TIF to the fullest extent possible, and 2 projects come to mind now. The Stacyville daycare expansion and support of new housing. These 2 programs would grow Mitchell County. If the Congress Lady Hinton's earmark does not materialize, use TIF to the fully fund the remaining balance here of Stacyville. This would be a good way to spend your money. You have the monies and you have the tools to do this. The same holds true for new housing. I do want to truly thank this board for holding this budget hearing, and I do appreciate this opportunity to address this board and the citizens of Mitchell County. I will leave this document here with Auditor
Rachel.
no, I can't even think.
Foster.
Pardon?
Foster.
Foster. Sorry about that. And again, thank you, Ted.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
So I will comment a little bit about what you said, okay? What you said is not,
Speak up. I mean,
what you have said is not entirely incorrect, but there are some things that need clarification on it. And it has to do with the old housing program. I actually spoke when I went to ISAC. I spoke about the old housing program with individuals that you have mentioned in your document. I spoke directly with them about it. And that old housing program was based on Eagle Grove's housing program. But I was also made known that the housing program we had was not run the same as the way Eagle Grove's housing program was run.
that is correct.
And that way it caused a number of issues, not only in Mitchell County, but statewide, because there were supervisors in this conversation also that mentioned that what was happening actually damaged TIF statewide as far as what the legislature wanted to do to promote stuff like this. So it was a damaging thing that happened, but that doesn't mean that you cannot use TIF for housing. They did not say that. They said it was okay to use it for housing, but it had to be done correctly. So, no, I want to finish. You talked a lot. I want to finish.
Okay.
So when you talk about legality, that's a big concern I have as far as the county getting sued. I've mentioned that a number of different times that's a concern I have. I was the one that got a hold of Danos, that you referred to, the supervisor that talked to Danos about 4 years ago. And in that conversation, he alluded to just what I said, was that the program was not being run correctly, and that's what the problem was with the program. So you also called out as far as the Fair Board, we used money for a building there. We used money for different things at that time, and those things have never been tested legally in order to be, and you compared that to that housing program. That is incorrect, because those programs, and I'll use the Fair Board building as an example, we determined that that was a positive economic impact to the county, and by doing that, you can use Iowa Code 15 and 15A to do that, and that's what made that legitimate. So there was not a testing that needed to be involved. It was actually code that says, yes, you can do that if it's a positive economic impact. Now, you know that I totally support using TIF dollars. Totally. It's the only thing that we have that we can use to improve the county. So I support it wholeheartedly, but it's got to be done correctly as far as I'm concerned. You said a lot, but I wanted to highlight on those areas.
Well, going back to the housing thing, And I guess I did not put this in there, but Jeff Heil again said that if our program was tweaked just a little bit, it would be able to meet muster or whatever you want to call it. So he had an idea of how to tweak the program so that you could utilize that same basic, the basic program, with some adjust, I hate this Alzheimer's. But,
I understand what you're saying, and I won't go any further, but I wanted to clarify a few
Well,
things
no,
that you
that's-
said. I'm done.
Shannon, do you have anything? Nope. Rachel, do you want to elaborate on why the document was so confusing?
The mailer,
Yeah.
I don't know why the state did it the way they do it. It's, so they, I didn't bring one with me. I think they base it on, is it a $300,000 house? And if it was increased to the new valuation of 330,000.
Yep.
So that's a little bit confusing. You'd have to kind of, if you're thinking of it as your house, you'd have to do the adjustments of what your house is worth versus the 330,000. So that part's a little bit confusing. But I can talk a little bit about like the levy rates. So last year, because of the House File 718, our max levy for the general basic was 3.39806, and we had our general supplemental was at 2.23491. And because our valuations weren't above that 3%, we are able to go back to the 3.5%, which has allowed us then to create our sub-project fund that we did this year, which will allow, if something were to happen, we wouldn't have to necessarily, I don't want to say go bond, but we'd have a little bit of money there that would help cover some of that funds. So then our general supplemental levy would actually decrease to 2.14064 from that 2.23491. That makes sense. A lot of numbers.
Any other public comments? I don't see anyone online that has any questions?
Did Mark have comments from the public? Oh,
Okay. We'll close the public hearing at 9:23. Adjourn the meeting at 9:23.
Thank you for everybody that attended. Thank you.
Well, I'm not leaving yet.
Okay.